Hey everyone, today we'll be going over the fundamental controls of a motorcycle and make sure to stick to the end to figure out the best possible way to implement these. First off, we got the front brake. Very simple, just pull it in to engage, release it to disengage. What that does is applies braking pressure to the front tire, which is also going to shift your weight very abruptly forward. So when you use that, you want to apply some pressure, a little more, a little more, a little more. Be very smooth with it, similar to the clutch, which we'll be talking about very soon. Okay, next up, sticking where the front brake is going to be the hazards. All you do is pull that to the right to turn them on, push them away to turn them off. Simple as that. Then you have the kill switch. Currently, it is in the off position. So what you want to do is push it down, at which point the engine, should it be on, is going to remain on. What you want to do to actually turn the motorcycle on is to hold the ignition down until you hear the engine rev up, at which point you're good and running. Next up is going to be the throttle, same side. You're just going to rotate that towards you, and it's going to obviously amp up the RPM, speed up the bike, and that's going straight to the rear wheel. So if you hit that too hard, you might spin out, hit it even harder, and you're going to pop a wheelie. So that's a nice fun thing to do. Next up, going from one handlebar to the middle, is going to be the ignition. Simple as turning it clockwise to turn it on and turning it counterclockwise to turn it off. This is going to be supplying power to the entirety of the bike, so your headlights, your hazard lights, your horn, everything. Right now, horn's not doing anything. Now, we're going to be moving on to the other side of the handlebars. You have your clutch, which I brought up a little bit earlier. What that's going to do is going to be regulating how much power is actually going to the rear wheel. So if you have it slightly pulled in, it's going to be slightly less power. If you have it all the way pulled in, it's no power going to the rear wheel. So with that, to rev bomb, you would pull the clutch all the way in and then just whiskey throttle the throttle, and boom, engine's going to be super loud, no power's going to the rear wheel. Should you dump the clutch in that situation though, while rev bombing, you're going to pop a wheelie, loop it, or just go flying down the road, whatever it is. Different bikes, depends on the RPM, all that good stuff. Clutch also has something called the friction zone. That's going to be the point at which it starts to apply power to the rear wheel. So all the way pulled in, it's not going to be applying any power. 3/4 the way pulled in, still not applying any power. Halfway, probably still not pulling any power. But somewhere between halfway and fully released is going to be when it starts to apply the smallest bit of power to the rear wheel, and that is called the friction zone. Now, sticking where the handlebar is, we have the horn. Super simple, you just press it and you get a boop. That's it. Then turn signals, right to go right, left to go left, and you press it down to turn it off. So the way motorcycles work are not like a car. If you turn your turn signal on, make a turn signal's not going to shut off. It's going to stay on. So after you make that turn, you have to make a conscious effort to push that down to stop signaling to people something you've already done. Next up, we have the clutch. The clutch is pretty simple. It's basically just a unique gearbox for motorcycles. The way they work is they always remain in the middle position, which isn't neutral. It's a little below neutral, but it's the middle position. And should you push it down, you will be going into a lower gear. Should you be in second, you'll be in first. Should you be in first, nothing happens. It won't let you push it down any further. But should you push the shifter up, you'll go up a gear. So if you were in first gear, you're now in second. If you were in second gear, you're now in third. If you were in third gear, you're now in fourth, so forth, so forth, so forth. Now, if you want to go neutral, you have to be in either second or first gear, because it's between those two gears that you will actually shift into neutral. So say you're in first, you want to just very lightly hit it up, and that will allow you to go into neutral. Should you hit it just a little bit too hard, you'll go into second gear, and it's the exact same but inverted for going from second into neutral, where you just lightly press it down, neutral, hard press it down, you're in first. So that's basically how that works. Next up, you have the rear brake. Now that's similar to the front brake and the clutch in the sense that the more pressure you put, the more braking power you have. It applies pressure to the rear tire, so it doesn't really stop as much, because for very slow speed maneuvers, it's a good way to regain control, regulate power, but for anything over 10 miles an hour, you're wanting to use the front brake, because this will still shift your weight forward. But if you decide to apply more and more rear brake as your weight is shifting forward, you'll end up losing traction because there's no longer pressure making it have contact with the ground, at which point your tire will lock up and you'll start fishtailing. The reason fishtailing is really bad is because should your bike get unaligned and then regain traction at this point, your movement is still going forward, but the bike is now going to immediately shift all of that forward momentum into angular momentum, which is going to make you come to a sudden stop, launch forward as your bike goes off into a different direction. And that's called a high side when you just get launched over the top of the motorcycle. With the front brake, worst thing that happens is you hit it too hard and then you slide underneath, but you just start sliding. So it's really bad, but if you're wearing enough gear, you should be fine. High siding though, you're launching. Who knows how far you're going, and when you come down, you're coming down with force. So hopefully you don't land on your helmet, because if you do, that's going to good luck. Good luck, honestly, but I hope for the best. Now, those are all the fundamental controls. There's also smaller controls that aren't really controls, but just good to know, such as the fuel tank. Simple as pulling it up, you put your key in, and then turn it clockwise, and boom, fuel tank is open. That's how you open that up. And when it's in the unlocked position, you can't pull the key out. So you can't have in the majority of cases, you can't have the bike running while the fuel tank is open. To close the fuel tank, you just push it into the unlocked position, push it down, relock it, and you're good to go. Hopefully now you have a full tank of gas. Now, the absolute best possible way that you can learn these skills, get them memorized into your head, is to practice. I know it's like pretty obvious, but it's practicing. And parking lot is probably the best possible way you can start it. And I do have 5 lessons in the description below that you can look at. They're free. It's just a PDF. They incorporate basically everything that we just talked about. But let's say you don't have a bike and can't do that. I do offer a course that you can take with me. It's in person. I'll provide a bike. I'll provide the gear. It's just that you can practice, get better with it. And should you have not taken your MSF, after my course, you'll be more than prepared for the MSF. That is all of the basic controls, and that is how they work. So I'll see you guys out on the road. Have a good one.